everyone. Today we're going to learn how to write a rhetorical precis. A rhetorical precis differs from a summary in that it is a less neutral, more analytical condensation of both the content and method of the original text. If you think of a summary as primarily a brief representation of what a text says, then you might think of the rhetorical precis as a brief representation of what a text both says and does. Although less common than a summary, a rhetorical precis is a particularly useful way to sum up your understanding of how a text works rhetorically. So we're going to be learning how to write a 4-paragraph sentence where we explain how the author is analyzing his text. Here is the structure of a rhetorical precis. The first sentence will include the name of the author, genre, title of work, date in parentheses, a rhetorically active word, and a that clause containing the major assertion or thesis in the text. Sentence number 2 will have an explanation of how the author develops and supports the thesis. In sentence number 3, a statement of the author's apparent purpose followed by an in order to phase will be included. In sentence number 4, a description of the intended audience and or the relationship the author establishes with the audience will be included. Here is a sentence starter. You may notice that there's an A and a B. For these, you are able to plug in words from the word bank that you will soon see. At the bottom, we have an example. Andrew Will, in the editorial, The Manifold Joys of Local Food, reveals that it is much healthier to process your own food. Now, I don't know, but there's something missing in this sentence. Do you know what it is? It's the date. The date is usually followed by the title, which should be included. So make sure that you pay close attention to that when you're writing your own sentence. You may use this sentence starter to begin with yours. And sentence number 2 is where we explain the how. We will have the author's last name, which supports his or her blank through his use of blank. Now remember, where it says the B and C, that is where you can plug in words from the word bank if you need help. At the bottom, we have an example. Will supports his or her revelation through his use of illustrating logos, repetition, and ethos. Again, you may use the first sentence starter to begin your own. Sentence number 3 will be the why. In the example below, it says the author's purpose is to persuade us so that we can process our own food. In sentence number 4, we'll be explaining to whom. At the example we have, the author writes in a formal tone for local food buyers. For the audience, as you read, make sure you ask yourself, who is the author writing for? Is there a specific audience that it is intended for? In this case, the audience is local food buyers because he is trying to persuade them to process their own food. Sometimes it won't directly tell you who the audience is, but you can take a good guess by looking at the context clues and rereading again. Here is the word bank I was talking about. For A, B, C, D, and E, it will give you words to use that will go with the letters that you saw earlier. You can go ahead and pause for a moment. Here is an example. Sheridan Baker, in his essay Attitudes, 1966, asserts that writers' attitudes toward their subjects, their audiences, and themselves determine to a large extent the quality of their prose. Baker supports this assertion by showing examples how inappropriate attitudes can make writing unclear, pompous, or boring, concluding that a good writer will be respectful towards his audience, considerate towards his readers, and somehow amiable toward human failings. His purpose is to make his readers aware of the dangers of negative attitudes in order to help them become better writers. He establishes an informal relationship with his audience of how college students who are interested in learning to write with conviction. Now, as you can see, they included the date after the title. This is very important, especially when you will be quoting, as they did. They quoted something from the article and they included the page number. If you don't know the page number, that's okay. Make sure you still address who this quote was from. In this case, they said Baker supports this assertion, and then they explained the quote as well. Also, make sure that you have a purpose, that you know why the writer wrote the text, as well as who they wrote the text for. In this case, it is college students. So you can use this example and compare it to your own and see what else is missing from yours. Here's a second example. Douglas Park in his essay Audiences suggests that teaching audience is an essential but elusive aspect of teaching writing. Park develops this idea by exploring different definitions of audience, looking at how a text itself can delineate audience, and then discussing specific strategies writers can use to create context for audience. His purpose is to help teachers of writing understand and teach the different aspects of audience in order that they can help students improve the sense of audience in their writing. Park establishes an informal relationship with teachers who are interested in straightening their students' weak writing. Now for this one, go ahead and analyze on your own and see if they used all the requirements that is needed for a rhetorical precis. All right, good job. So now we have some words for the introduction of quotations. These are just a few, but you can go ahead and use some of these in your own. Remember, when quoting, always use quotation marks around the quotation. Always attribute the quote to its author or identify the quote as being from an unknown or anonymous source if there is no known author. Always explain what the quotation you chose means in your own words, and never attribute a quotation to a bid. All right, everyone, thank you. And if this is still something you are struggling with, please go ahead and review the PowerPoint again. I'm sure it will help you. We are here to help. Have a good day.